Hi, I'm Dwight de Leon, and welcome to Rappler Talk. 3 impeachment complaints have been lodged against Vice President Sara Duterte at the House of Representatives. But almost 2 months since the filing, the petitions have not made progress. With Congress set to embark on a 3-month break as the Philippines heads to the campaign season and the elections, it appears that the window of opportunity to put the VP's head on the chopping block is closing. But one group of complainants still argues the best time to impeach her is now. We are joined today here at the studio by attorney Amando Virgil Ligutan. He's the lawyer of the third group of complainants. Hi, attorney. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dwight.
For the recollection of our viewers, the third impeachment complaint is led mostly by numerous Catholic priests. It was filed on December 19, 2024, and it was endorsed by Congressman Gabriel Bordado of Camarines Sur and Lex Calada of Partilist Group Ambis OWA. You said in that complaint that removing the vice president from office has become a moral obligation. What's with that wording? Why did you frame your argument that way?
All right. So we use the term moral obligation, Dwight, just to drive home one point. I think the public already saw the committee hearings conducted by the House. The evidence against the vice president is more than overwhelming. The evidence is more than overwhelming. That's why we came up with the idea, if evidence is overwhelming, impeaching the vice president is no longer just the legal or constitutional obligation. It has become the moral obligation of the House. That's the gist of the argument, Dwight.
And it's based on the discovery related to her confidential expenses. And ano nga po ulit yung mga grounds for impeachment that you cited?
I think the public already knew about it. She spent like, 125 million in 11 days, Dwight. And that's kind of improbable if 125 million spent in 11 days. And that's not the only thing, Dwight. We also have memorandum and observations from COA saying that the vice president was not able to prove the recipients, the programs and activities, which are the reasons why she spent 125 million in 11 days. And we have the infamous case of Mary Grace Piatos, GP, and the rest. And then I think these two names capture the essence of the case, the strong case against the vice presidents. How could you justify spending millions of pesos in 11 days and without proper documentation and COA pointing that out and giving this amount to fictitious individuals? Right? What's the basis for saying they are fictitious? We have certificates from the Statistics Authority, the Philippine Statistics Authority office saying that these people don't exist. So how do you justify that? So again, the result of the investigations, the result is felt by the fact that at least, I think a month ago, Dwight, or 2 or 3 weeks ago, at least 41%, there are more Filipinos that believe that the vice president should be impeached, Dwight.
And so you're saying that the amount of discoveries in that investigation, which you said is tantamount to culpable violation of the Constitution,
betrayal of
public trust.
That's the
Do you think it's the amount of the alleged corruption is rare and unprecedented that this impeachment is supposed to happen?
Yes, so 125 million in 11 days. But more than that, White, more than that. It is the idea of a vice president not able to explain how she spends that amount. You know, when asked how to explain, whether she would explain the controversy, you know what she said? She said, "I will not bother." I am paraphrasing her, but that's her point. Okay, I will not explain it. So for me, that really struck a chord among the Filipinos. So more than the amount, more than the sheer number of days she spent this amount, Dwight, it's more of the question: can we still trust her with a single peso? When in fact she was not able to explain how she did it, and she gave it to people like Mary Grace Piatos. It's more than the amount. It's the question: can we still trust her? So For the third set of complainants, the argument is simple. If you cannot be trusted with 125 million pesos, then you cannot be the vice president any longer, Dwight.
Now, attorney, what's the status of that complaint?
Okay, so the case, the complaint together with the two other prior complaints, unfortunately, when you ask what's the status, they have yet to be referred to or endorsed to the office of the Speaker. So according to the process, according to the Constitution, once a complaint is filed, Dwight, it must be included in the order of business within 10 session days, right? And we have to admit that's a lacuna, okay? That's a gap in the law and in the rules. So there is no time frame for the Secretary General of the House to refer that to the office of the Speaker.
Have you tried to follow it up with the SecGen's office? Kasi ang tagal 2 months.
Personally, I have not done that, knowing that the two other sets of complainants, example, Representative Castro has been nagging the Secretary General. So I'm relying on the two other sets of complainants. So if you were to ask Dwight, what's the status? The complaints have yet to be initiated. I think that's the term that the public is more familiar with. So hindi pa nagsisimula, Dwight. Hindi pa nagsisimula yung boxing, so to speak.
So the clock has not started.
Yes.
Why do you think the Secretary General has not forwarded the complaint to Speaker Romualdez? Because according to the Constitution, as you mentioned, the days, yung bilang, magsisimula lang siya kapag na-refer na siya sa office ni Speaker, he will have to include it in the order of business within 10 session days.
Correct.
But because hindi pa nagsisimula yun, hindi tayo makapagbilang ng araw.
Yes, that's correct. I could only surmise, Dwight, maybe the Secretary General is being calculative. Maybe as to the reason why he has yet to do it, maybe there are political considerations. Let's put it that way. There are political considerations that this Secretary General is considering. Why is it that he has yet to submit and or endorse the complaints to the office of the Speaker? So maybe yes. That's my gut feel, political considerations. Remember, when it comes to impeachment, it's not just a legal proceeding. It's more than that. It's a political exercise, right?
And what are those political considerations?
Maybe what complicates the math for me, Dwight, it's really the elections, these coming elections. We have to admit it. Despite her dwindling popularity or trust rating, the vice president remains to be popular among certain groups of people in the country. So maybe that's the reason why. But for me, the argument against that is if political consideration trumps accountability of public officials, right, it will send the wrong signal. What is that wrong signal? Okay, for example, we have examples of lowly government officials getting removed from office for stealing and or failing to account for thousands or millions of pesos for that matter. But here we have the vice president who, based on her observation and based on survey, maybe the people already know that she did something illegal. But why is it that the wheels of justice have yet to turn against her? Is it because she's popular? So if Congress does not act on the impeachment complaints, if Congress does not impeach and remove the vice president despite the damning evidence against her, right, it will send the wrong signal. Having a popular family name will give you free pass. That will send a very, very wrong signal. Might as well forget about the constitutional principle that public office is public trust. Right?
Let's look at the calendar. The House adjourns later this week. If we go by what usually happens, by Wednesday, yun yung last plenary session nila. They won't be back until after the elections, June 2. And they will only meet for around 6 session days before they adjourn sine die on June 13. And the next time it convenes, there will be a new batch of lawmakers. When you look at that calendar, it seems next to impossible to squeeze in the impeachment agenda. In a practical sense, attorney, do you think they still can? Do you think the House can still impeach Sara, for example, in the next 3 days?
Yes, yes. So, the problem that goes with it is the misconception we have that if the Vice President is impeached and the Senate has yet to commence with the trial, the misconception, Dwight, is that the incoming 20th Congress and or Senate cannot act on the impeachment complaint. Okay, for us that's a misconception. It is based on a construct or a misinterpretation that when Congress ends, that we have these iterations of Congress from the first until the present 19th Congress. But we did a study, Dwight, and we found out that really there is no constitutional basis, Dwight, to the argument that a Congress ends. Okay, we looked at sources abroad. We looked at sources in the United States and in England, and we found out that technically Congress does not end.
Okay, let's discuss that one by one.
Okay, sure.
Attorney. First, is there a realistic path for the House to impeach Vice President this week? Is that possible?
Yes. So if the House impeaches the Vice President by a vote of at least 1/3 of the House members, according to the Constitution, all right, so the impeachment complaints signed by at least 1/3 of the House will constitute as the articles of impeachments, which will be transmitted to the Senate. And according to the Constitution, the Senate has to proceed with trial immediately.
Okay, so the House no longer has to follow yung dadaan sa Justice Committee, magde-deliberate yung Justice Committee. So, the House just needs, the petitions just need the support of 1/3 of members, and Vice President Sara is impeached that fast.
Yes.
Okay. After that, the articles of impeachment will be transmitted to the Senate. Now, the Senate will be adjourned alongside the House for the next 3 months. Can the Senate conduct a trial during the break muna? Is that possible, attorney?
Yes. So very much possible. In fact, that should be the case. That's the constitutional mandate of the Senate to proceed with trial immediately upon receipt of the articles of impeachment, regardless of whether or not it is on adjournment the moment it receives the articles of impeachment. If you look at the Constitution, what it says, the Senate must immediately proceed with trial. Okay? It's not qualified by whether or not, it's not qualified by if the Senate is not in session, then the Senate cannot do it. No, there's no qualification. And I think we now drive home to the main point, Dwight. The adjournments of the House, the adjournments of the Senate only affects their function as a lawmaking body.
Okay.
I repeat, adjournments of sessions by the House and the Senate only affects their law-making, law-passing functions.
But not what?
But not their other functions other than lawmaking. And what are these other functions that Congress may have other than lawmaking? Number one, we have when Congress acts as the National Board of Canvassers, canvassing the votes and proclaiming the vice presidents and the president of the republic, all right? And luckily for our side, Dwight, we have precedents. We have the case of Pimentel versus House of Representatives, okay? We are applying this by analogy, okay? I will explain very quickly. In that case, Senator Pimentel filed a petition in the Supreme Court arguing that the Congress converted into National Board of Canvassers, right, cannot continue with this function if Congress is already adjourned sine die. That was his argument. So he said, the moment Congress adjourns sine die, then it ceases to function as Congress, so it should cease to function as the National Board of Canvassers. Okay? In that case, the Supreme Court said no. The Supreme Court said that when Congress acts as a non-legislative body, i.e., for example, as a National Board of Canvassers, despite the adjournment sine die by the House or by the Senate or by the Congress, okay, it should continue functioning as such until such time that it is able to deliver what's supposed to deliver. That is to proclaim the president and the vice president, regardless of number one, adjournment, sine die, and regardless, this is important, Dwight, regardless of the change of composition. So for me, this is it. We have precedents, although it's not in all force with the case now, but we can apply it forcefully with all force by analogy. The argument now is like this. If the Supreme Court in the Pimentel case said, despite adjournment sine die by the Congress, when Congress acts as a national board of canvassers, i.e. not as a lawmaking body, it's not affected by any adjournment.
So does that work also for impeachment?
Yes, exactly. So if we were to dichotomize the functions of the Congress, on one hand we have the lawmaking functions, and on the other hand we have the other lawmaking functions. We can lump in this category of non-lawmaking functions impeachment and when Congress acts as the National Board of Canvassers. That's the argument.
But presuming that that argument works, do you think the Senate will be compelled to conduct an impeachment trial during this busy season? We have at least 4 senators who will be busy on their re-election campaigns: Tolentino, Revilla, Pia Cayetano, Lito Lapid. They probably won't have time to fulfill their duties as members of this impeachment court, so to speak.
I beg to disagree with that because for me, what better platform for election than the impeachment court? Right? So for me, it would be to the advantage of these senators running for re-elections in May 2025 to sit as a judge in the impeachment trial. Okay. No better platform for elections is there other than the impeachment.
Because of the airtime that will be given to them.
Yes. We have to be practical.
Okay.
We have to be practical about it, right?
Okay. And you said earlier that the impeachment trial can spill over to the next Senate in case this batch of senators doesn't finish it. In case, there is of course under the assumption that the House would impeach Sara and that the articles of impeachment will be transmitted to the Senate. And you said that this has happened at least in the United States.
Yes.
What's the precedent?
Okay. Reading the body language of our senators, reading between the lines, the statements of our Senate President. Senate President Escudero said, do we have time for this? Because he is assuming that the 20th Congress, the Senate of the 20th Congress, cannot act on an impeachment complaint filed in the previous or the present 90th Congress. We beg to disagree with that, all right? Because if we look at the Constitution, right, there's only one temporal or time limitation when it comes to impeachment, and that is the rule that there can be no impeachment complaint initiated within a 1-year period from the last impeachment initiation of the impeachment complaint. That is the only time limitation imposed in the Constitution. So as to whether or not the 20th Senate can act on the impeachments filed by the 19th House of Representatives, there is no constitutional prohibition to that. All right? And we believe if it's not prohibited, then it can be done. Now, if we don't have a specific rule or constitutional provision here in the Philippines, usually what we do, Dwight, is we look to the United States. Okay? And then we check because our rules, our law on impeachment, the rules on impeachment that we have are lifted faithfully from the U.S. Constitution. And, I think this is the time that the public has to be informed. It has been the practice of the United States of America, to try for the Senate of the U.S. to try an impeached official, okay, of the previous Congress. Okay, the classic example we have, Dwight, is what happened to U.S. President Bill Clinton. U.S. President Bill Clinton was impeached by the 105th Congress, by the House, and he was tried by the 106th Senate.
Okay, so this was after their midterms, or is that?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So if we were to ask, do we have precedent? Do we have actual case where a previous Congress is not able to hold trial, to try an impeachable officer, and for the incoming Congress to take the mantle of trying the impeached officer? Yes, we have. It happened in the United States 4 times. And we also found a work of Thomas Jefferson, a forefather of the United States of America. You know, in one of his books, in one of his writings, in one of his authoritative writing, he said, impeachment is not adjourned together with adjournment of Congress. So we have practice in the United States. We have 4 actual impeachments traversing 2 Congresses, and the United States Supreme Court did not bother to strike them down, because exactly they are legal. They're legal. And we have Thomas Jefferson saying that it can be done. So for me, the uncertainty, we do understand that. The confusion, we do understand that. But if we look at precedent, here we have. And if we look at for inspiration or persuasive effects of what the practice has been in the United States, it can be done. It's very doable. It's practicable, Dwight.
Attorney, you just to get a better gauge of your argument, you said that there's no time limitations in the Constitution when it comes to Congress. But di ba sir yung mga bills? Like for example, when a bill does not get passed in the current Congress, it will have to be refiled in the next Congress. Right. Isn't it, in a way, the bill expires and that the Congress sort of recognizes a changing of guard?
Yes. You know, that's the source of the confusion, Dwight. That's the source of the confusion, because it's a misconception that impeachment is like a bill. And that if a bill is not passed in one Congress, it has to be taken anew by the subsequent Congress. Okay, but then again, remember when we dichotomized earlier. On one hand, we have the legislative functions of Congress, and on the other hand, we have the non-legislative functions. Okay, passing a bill is a legislative function of Congress, and that goes with it adjournments, as Congress expiring or ending. But when it comes to the non-legislative functions, which include impeachment, impeachment is not affected by any adjournments of the Senate and or the House, for that matter, Dwight.
Attorney, that is your argument, but of course we expect that argument, if ever the House buys it, it will be challenged. There's a possibility that it will be challenged at the Supreme Court, for example. Why should Speaker Romualdez risk the possibility of being challenged at the Supreme Court if he will take a shot at the Vice President?
Because that's the right thing to do, Dwight. I've been telling the public the Speaker Romualdez and the House of Representatives will betray the Filipino people if they don't act on the impeachment complaints. Remember, Dwight, these impeachment complaints, or I could speak for the 3rd impeachment complaint that we filed as the lead counsel, that is a mere reaction to the findings of their own committee hearings. Without them uncovering these anomalies, all right, we would not have acted on them, all right? So if they will not act on the complaints we filed, which are mere reactions to their own doing, they will betray the Filipino people. It will take so much for this House of Representatives to ignore their own findings, Dwight. And as a policy argument, Dwight, you know, if we were to follow the argument that the 20th Congress cannot continue the unfinished business when it comes to impeachment of the previous Congress, the Congress will betray the Filipino people. It will not hold true what is stated in the Constitution, Dwight, that public officers must be accountable at all times to the people. So if Congress or if the Supreme Court or if the rule will be the 20th Congress cannot act on the 19th Congress impeachment proceedings or continue with the proceedings, it will render nugatory the precept that accountability of public officers must be the general rule, because the Constitution says they must be held accountable to the public at all times. So limiting the impeachment proceedings to one Congress is like adding a new limitation, right, to the rules of impeachment, which the Constitution does not provide. So for me, as to policy, as to precedent, as to practice abroad, our argument is based on solid legal basis. So if we were to summarize, impeaching the Vice President by the 19th Congress and trying her by the 20th Congress, that's not only the legal thing to do, that's not only the constitutional thing to do, it's the moral thing to do. Again, I will repeat, it will really send the wrong signal to the public that if this Vice President is not impeached just because she's popular, it will send the wrong signal. It's like saying that it's okay if you commit something illegal so long as you have a popular family name. A popular family name should not be a free pass to illegal activities, Dwight.
You've mentioned earlier that you've acknowledged that the impeachment process is not just a legal process, but a political process. And it all boils down to a numbers game. When you want 1/3 of the House to support of the impeachment of the Vice President, that's equivalent to more than 100 lawmakers. Has your group talked to other lawmakers? Have they told you, maybe in passing, that we're willing to support your impeachment complaint? It's just that wala pa kasing basbas sa taas because we know that's how usually how it works.
So personally, I have yet to talk to a single member of Congress. But I'm taking my cue from, for example, Representative Castro, and then she is more of an insider when it comes to impeachment in the House of Representatives. So Dwight, it's correct. This is a political exercise. This is something political. But now I'm talking to the members of the House of Representatives. Remember, more Filipinos support the impeachment compared to those opposed to it. And we believe the number will increase. So if we were to consider this as a political exercise, just remember this. More Filipinos support the impeachment compared to those opposed to it. So that's a political consideration that you should have in mind.
Paano kung sabihin ng mga kongresista na susuportahan naman namin pero sa sunod na kongreso na lang para... Kasi nga, you mentioned maybe some lawmakers are worried about the support base of the Vice President affecting their voter base in the coming elections. And also when you initiate a complaint, kasi it happens at the Justice Committee. So right now it hasn't happened. Yes. And once the complaint has been initiated and it fails for whatever reason, the Vice President gets a year of immunity. Is the reward worth the risk? Or can they just wait na lang tayo after ng elections pag may ganong argument?
So exactly. So we do understand the political dilemma that these members of Congress have. We do understand that. But then again, at the end of the day, before you sleep, maybe you ask this question: are we sending the correct signal, the right signal to the people, that just because elections are coming, elections are due, we will not hold the Vice President accountable for whatever she did with the 125 millions, which are supposed to be spent for the good of the people. So that's it. That's my question to them. Aren't we betraying the oath that we made before the public to make public accountability or to make accountability of public officials their rule rather than the exception, right?
President Marcos himself has thumbed down the impeachment efforts, impeachment talks. And some lawmakers have actually used the president's statement to say na, because the president doesn't want it, we're also against it. Yeah. If you're going to convince the president, kasi his words matter, his words are gospel for the lawmakers. What's the best way to convince him?
But Dwight, I have another take on the matter. I've been observing the actuations and the statements of the president, and I noticed a subtle change of tone, Dwight. You know, he said, I think that was in November or December, that's the list of the priorities of the state to impeach the vice president. But you know what he said like 2 weeks ago when he visited Region 8 Tacloban? You know, I noticed, you know what he said? I think we have no time for that. So the timing is poor. So we have, for me, there's a subtle change in the tone of the president as to his sentiment on the impeachment, from saying that should not be a priority to the latest statement, Dwight, that the timing is poor.
Oh, so this is your answer?
Yes.
That there is time.
The timing is poor. So I mean, what the president is saying, that it's not, it's no, there's a shift in in the mindset of the president. That's my observation. From saying that this should not be done because it doesn't serve any purpose to, it should be done, but the timing is poor. For me, that should be amplified. There's a change when it comes to the tone of the president on the matter of the impeachment of his vice president. So for me, that's a point to the impeachment initiative than to the other side. Right?
Okay. So you're saying that you're telling the president, no, Mr. President, there's time to impeach the vice president.
Yes, Mr. President, we have time. We have time to impeach the president. We have time to impeach the vice president. Impeaching the vice president is not affected by the quote adjournment of Congress. I repeat, there's only one time limitation stated in the Constitution. That is the 1-year bar rule. 1 year, the impeached officer, the officer is immune from subsequent impeachment proceedings if an impeachment complaint has been initiated against her or him. That's the only time limitation in the Constitution. And again, I have to repeat, if the President is listening, if we go by the practice in the United States, it has been done not once but 4 times, culminating with the infamous impeachments of then President Bill Clinton. They did it abroad. They had no problem with it. And I think we should have no problem with it in our jurisdiction, right?
Anyway, we hope to hear from the House soon. We'll see if they'll file or they'll endorse or they'll support the impeachment complaints with the 3 days they have before they adjourn in time for the campaign season this week. So thank you, Attorney, for joining us here. This has been Rappler Talk.
Okay.